Hey, it's Kevin Ward here at YesMasters.com. What is the single most important thing about a seller selling their house or a buyer buying a home? And the answer is it's always motivation. More important than anything else is motivation. If they're a seller, it doesn't matter. The price is irrelevant if they don't want to sell. When it comes to a buyer, whether or not they can afford to buy a home, whether they have cash or they have down payment or they're qualified financially, is irrelevant if they are not motivated to buy a house. So the number one most important thing with every client you work with is their motivation. Now the question is, how do you establish or determine how strong or how powerful their motivation is? And it's not just a matter of do you know why they want to buy or sell. It's a matter of what are the factors that make motivation high or that make motivation low. And I want to share with you the three key factors in establishing the motivation of a client, buyer or seller. I'm going to focus mostly on sellers because that's what I teach you to focus on. So let's talk about it. I've got a seller, and let's just say for an example, and I had one that was emailed, an email that came from one of you this morning, that they're meeting with somebody who says their reason for selling is they're downsizing. Their two daughters are now graduated and they're off to college, so they don't need that big house anymore and they want to downsize. So now we have a motivation. But how strong is that motivation? So let's just talk about the three different factors, the three major factors of identifying what is a buyer or seller's motivation. So the number one factor is what is their reason? What is their reason for wanting to sell? Is the reason. Why do they want to make this move? Why are they wanting to sell their property? Okay, so that's number one. It comes out in, so when the house sells, where are you going next and why are you making that move? So that is the reason. However, somebody may have a reason to move and they say, well, we want to downsize. Great, so how important is that to you to downsize? You know, when do you want to downsize? I don't know. What are you going to do when you sell this house? Are you going to stay in the area? Well, we don't know what we're going to do next. So they may have a reason to sell, it just may not be a very powerful reason. So the next factor in identifying motivation after the reason for wanting to sell is what is their resolve. And that means how committed are they to make this move happen? How strong or how deep or how intense is this motivation? So somebody wants to downsize. Well, that tells you the reason. Why do they want to downsize? Well, the kids have moved out, we got this big house, and so forth. So is that intense or not? Well, I don't know yet. So you got to ask more questions to find out. What if they want to downsize because their monthly mortgage house payment is killing them? In fact, if we don't get this done quickly, we're going to not be able to make our house payment. Well, now I've got not only a reason they're wanting to downsize. Why? Because of financial stress. What is their resolve? If we don't do something now, we're in trouble. So now we've got a strong resolve. Or it may be their reason is my husband just got a transfer to Chicago. So we're moving. So that's the reason, is because of a job transfer. What's their resolve? We're definitely selling the house. Why? Because we're living in California right now and we're going to be living in Illinois. We got to sell the house. So that's the resolve. So they're committed. And this is where you can kind of say on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to doing this now, to making this move happen now? So that's the resolve. And then the third factor is the rush. It's the rush factor. And that is, what is the urgency in making this move happen? So you got one person, they want to downsize because the kids are gone, or they want to downsize because they're retired and they got an RV and they're going to be motorhoming all over the country. They're going to be gone a lot, so they just want a smaller house, easier to take care of, easier to manage, lower the bills, and so forth. So they've got a reason. They're definitely going to do it. There's a resolve. But one, they got no time frame. Now, whenever the house sells, whenever we find something we like, as opposed to the one who says, I'm having a hard time making the house payment. If we don't do something quick, we're not going to be able to make the house payment. So now I've got a reason. I find out that it's absolutely a dire situation, which means there's a resolve. They're definitely committed to doing something. And also there is a rush. If my husband has got a new job opportunity in Chicago, great, how soon would you like to be there? Well, you know, it doesn't matter. He can start anytime after October the 1st, but he's going to be telecommuting and we're not going to have to actually be there till we get our house sold. There's no rush. The urgency is also a factor. So which of these is more important? I don't know. It just depends on the situation. The key is that when you go to identify motivation, a lot of times we get the reason they're moving. Oh, we want to downsize. Oh, perfect, let's meet. But you find out when you actually get there, they're thinking about downsizing, but maybe something they do within the next 20 years. In other words, there's no motivation. There's a reason, but there's no resolve, and there's certainly no rush. So when you are pre-qualifying a seller, buyers the same, but I'm focusing again on sellers. When you're pre-qualifying a seller, you don't want to just know why they want to sell. You want to know how committed they are to selling, what's their strength of their motivation, and what is their time frame, is their time pressure. And there's no right or wrong here. It's just a matter of identifying it so you know how you can help them. Now, let me just say one last thing, and that is that they can be absolutely committed to selling and ready to do it now without having to rush. A rush is not essential. It helps, but it's not required. For example, somebody says, we want to sell this home and buy a bigger, nicer home. So we're upsizing. How soon would you like to do it? And we'd like to do it as soon as possible. However, we're in a situation where there's no pressure, there's no time pressure. Or my husband just retired, so we're going to downsize or we're move back east closer to the kids, or whatever it is. There's a motivation where there's a reason they're moving. They're definitely committed to doing it. They just don't have a deadline. It doesn't necessarily mean they're not ready to get things going. It's just that there's not a sense of desperation like somebody who's falling behind on a house payment. Totally two different things. One is, hey, we're ready to make this happen as soon as possible. We don't have a deadline. They can still have a strong motivation. You just have to be asking the right questions and listening to make that happen. Now, when and how does this apply? When you're talking to somebody, whether they're a referral or they're a for sale by owner or they're an expired, and you're setting a listing appointment, you want to, as you're talking to somebody, you want to identify some motivation before you try to get an appointment. Why? Because motivation is the leverage that you have. It's the hook. When I find out why this for sale by owner is selling, and I find out they have a reason to sell, they're committed to selling, and they need to do it quickly. Now I've got a stronger leverage to get them to go ahead and set an appointment with me now and let me help them make this move happen. The same with an expired, the same with a referral. If somebody tells you, one of your past clients says, hey, my neighbor is thinking about selling, and I call that homeowner, call their neighbor, I'm not necessarily wanting to rush out there and grab an appointment. I want to have a conversation with them and identify what I can do to help. So I'm going to find out, why are they thinking about selling? How committed is that something they're really going to do? So tell me more about that. How soon would you like to be? Why are you making the move? How soon would you like to do that? I'm identifying resolve and urgency. And when I know all three of those, I've got some really strong leverage to know how to get them to take action and make a decision to hire you when they are ready. And so it just gives you a lot of leverage so that when you go in, your listing presentation actually results in you getting a listing. Why? Because you know you can help them and you know they actually need your help now, and that tells you when it's time to go out and do it. If you will specialize in connecting with clients by identifying what their motivation is, now they see you, one, you're interested in what's important to them, their motivation, and two, you know how to communicate with them and where the leverage points are to inspire them to hire you. It's there. The opportunities are out there. Embrace life, engage those opportunities, play to win, and always expect yes.